Stay tuned after the episode for additional content. January 2024. Winter has descended upon the feral cat colony at Deer Lodge. This is the hardest part of the year for the members of this colony. Especially for the youngest members, Caramel, Mocha, and Hector. With temperatures getting down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit at night, for days on end, and not much warmer during daylight hours. This is an extremely dangerous time for these cats. In our last episode, we saw a dramatic change in the number of cats in our feral cat colony here at Deer Lodge in 2023. 2024 also saw some dramatic changes to the colony. First, let's recap our colony as it stood at the end of 2023, then continue with the events that happened with the colony during 2024. Let us first take a look at the family tree of our feral cats here at Deer Lodge. The two male cats, Clark and Mr. Darcy, lived in this area for some years prior to us beginning to track and film these cats. In May of 2021, a female feral cat, Ellen, appeared on the property here at Deer Lodge. She gave birth to 3 kittens: Audie, Rusty, and Victor. Victor would be brought into Deer Lodge after being left behind by Ellen. 1 year later, Ellen would give birth to her second litter, consisting of 4 kittens: Charlie, Buster, Honey, and Ruby Sue. Then in October 2022, Ellen would give birth to her third and final litter, consisting of 2 female kittens, Caramel and Mocha. In July of 2022, Rusty would give birth to her only litter, consisting of 2 male kittens, Hector and Timmy. Timmy would be brought into Deer Lodge, after he too was left behind by his mother, Rusty, leaving the colony with a total of 12 members. However, by the end of 2023, the colony had lost 5 of its members, due to predator attacks within the colony. Audie, Rusty, Charlie, Buster, and Honey, bringing the population total to 7 members. We also lost one of the members of the Insiders, the eldest female, Bella. And this is where we begin, Episode 3, of the colony. January 2024, had very cold temperatures and some snow. The first major shift in the colony occurred when, after continued cold days, and especially cold nights, Hector failed to appear at the Deer Lodge feral cat shelter and feeding area. At the end of our last episode, work was underway to try and get Hector and his brother Timmy, who was now on the inside at Deer Lodge, together again. With the loss of his mother, Rusty, Hector seemed to be alone and kept at a distance with the other members of the colony. Attempts were made with Hector during the fall of 2023 to get him more accustomed to human interaction. Strides were made, and it looked like Hector might come around to being moved inside. It was during this time that Hector became sick. He was given immune health supplements as part of his food to try and clear up his condition. However, as the harsh winter temperatures of January arrived, Hector disappeared. After several weeks of not seeing Hector appear on any of the motion sensor cameras placed outside at Deer Lodge, especially coming to get warm, or food and water, at our shelter and feeding area, it was feared that Hector had succumbed to his illness and the very cold nighttime temperatures. Then, out of the blue, and after we had thought we lost him, he appeared one February day for food and water. His brief appearance was met with great relief. However, this one-time appearance would be the last time we would see Hector for several months. In late spring, as we drove along one of the roads near Deer Lodge, we saw Hector sitting in the brush. Again, a few weeks later, we saw him crossing the same road and heading off into another residential neighborhood. It is now thought that Hector has moved on from the colony at Deer Lodge. We believe that his isolation in the colony, with the loss of his mother Rusty and brother Timmy, along with the shunning by the older male cats in the colony, Clark and Mr. Darcy, forced him to search elsewhere for a new life. On October 14, 2024, a black tuxedo cat's remains were seen by the humans at Deer Lodge, on a busy road 3/4 of a mile away. It was feared that this might be Hector. Upon closer inspection, the bow tie markings on the chest area did not seem to match those of Hector. Since then, he hasn't been seen again. Whether Hector lives, or is now with his mother, he will be missed. In 2022 and 2023, most of the cats in our colony were trapped and taken to a special feral cat facility for spaying and neutering. This process is called TNR, or Trap, Neuter, Return. Ruby Sue, a thin tortie cat, is the only remaining cat from Ellen's second litter. For 2 years she roamed the grounds of Deer Lodge, but often would not be seen for days at a time. She was the only one of the female feral cats, never to be trapped for a TNR spay or neuter. During the 2 years of her life, she did not get pregnant. There were thoughts that she might be sterile. This was not to be the case, as the humans at Deer Lodge would soon find out, in the later half of July 2024. The rains came suddenly. For 2 days it poured without mercy, soaking the woods and the old mill. On the second night of the storm, Ruby Sue emerged from the woods, her soaked fur clinging to her frame, as she carried a kitten in her mouth. She brought it to the shelter and feeding area provided by Deer Lodge, the one safe spot she knew. She left the kitten nestled beneath an overhang, shielded from the rain, and hurried back into the storm. 3 more times she returned, each time with a tiny kitten dangling from her jaws. When the last one was placed beside its siblings, Ruby Sue lingered for a moment, her body trembling from exhaustion. The next morning, August 1st, the skies finally cleared. Sunlight filtered through the trees, and when the humans at Deer Lodge went to refill the daily food bowls, they found Ruby Sue's lifeless body, still and cold, as if the storm had taken its final toll. But her kittens, her legacy, were safe, huddled together where she had left them, near where her body lay. With their mother gone, they would need care, and soon. The humans at Deer Lodge at this point only saw 2 of the kittens. Ruby Sue had given them a chance. Her final act was one of quiet, fierce love. And though she was gone, her spirit remained in the 4 tiny lives she had saved. Prior to this day, there was no advance warning that Ruby Sue had been pregnant or that she had given birth to any kittens. Upon looking back at the camera footage that had been recorded over the past few days, the humans at Deer Lodge were surprised to see Ruby Sue at the feeding area with a black tuxedo kitten. Only this one kitten showed up on any of the recorded video footage. But when Ruby Sue's body was found at the shelter and feeding area, the 2 kittens found by the humans at Deer Lodge were 2 ginger-colored kittens, not any black-colored kittens. The first order was to properly remove Ruby Sue's body from the area. The following day, her body, after being placed in a specially made container, would be buried in the cat cemetery at Deer Lodge. It was also imperative to capture the 2 ginger-colored kittens, or tabby cats. A tabby cat, or simply tabby, is any domestic cat coat pattern with a distinctive M-shaped marking on its forehead. Tabby cats have markings on their bodies that can appear as swirls, spots, or stripes. Ginger tabby cats are known for their distinct coloration, which comes in varying shades of orange, red, and gold, and with their tiger-like appearance. The 2 ginger kittens were now brought indoors and placed into a small enclosure in one of the special cat rooms inside Deer Lodge. They would be provided with a litter box, water, food, and KMR, or kitten milk replacer fluid. At this time, it seemed that the 2 kittens were approximately 1 month old. And it was at this time that they were given the names of Quincy and Leo. It wouldn't be until the following day, August 2nd, that the other kittens, 2 black tuxedo kittens, would be seen fully. Tuxedo cats are cats with a distinctive coat pattern. They are called tuxedo cats because their black and white markings resemble a formal tuxedo suit. Although the majority of tuxedo cats have black and white coats, there can be some variations in the pattern and coloration. Tuxedo cats are not a specific breed, but rather a coat pattern that can be found in various cat breeds and mixed breed cats. Unlike the 2 ginger kittens, Quincy and Leo, who were easily captured, these 2 tuxedo kittens had other plans. When approached at the shelter and feeding area, the 2 tuxedo kittens ran away. One was easily cornered, but the second one ran to a neighbor's house, 2 doors down, and was eventually cornered and put into a cat carrier. They would be reunited with their other 2 siblings, who were already inside Deer Lodge. It was at this time that the 2 black tuxedo kittens were given their new names, Salem and Jackson. All 4 kittens were now finally back together again, and happy to see each other, as their new life was about to begin. The first order of business was to move them from the small enclosure and introduce them to the cat room that would become their new home for the next few weeks. The small carrier containing all 4 kittens was placed inside their new room. As the minutes went by, they began to emerge and explore this all-new indoor home. Besides cat toys and items for the kittens to play with and climb on or under, they were provided with 2 litter boxes, a constant source of fresh water, and they were also provided with dry kitten food, somewhat kitten food, and the KMR kitten milk replacer fluid. All 4 had big appetites, but the change from their mother's milk to these other sources of nourishment created its own problems. It was at this time that all 4 kittens began to have real extreme diarrhea. It lasted for days, even with the injection of special cat diarrhea medicines. It was so bad that the kittens could not hold it, and they became covered with diarrhea all over their legs and backsides. It was also at this time that the presence of worms became apparent as they began to vomit up large amounts of worms from their stomachs, as seen here in this photo. Worms are a common problem for cats, and many cats will get infected with intestinal worms like roundworms, tapeworms, and hookworms at some point in their lives. While not always serious in adult cats, worms can be a significant concern for kittens, potentially causing malnutrition, anemia, or even death. The sight of these kittens covered with diarrhea was difficult to watch. It became so bad that one day, while viewing the CCTV live camera feed of the kitten room, Salem was seen lying on the floor, in a position not that different from his mother when she was found. And it was feared that he had died because of not being able to keep any food down. But as the humans at Deer Lodge raced to see if Salem was dead or alive, it quickly became clear that he was just sleeping. During these trying days, the kittens would be bathed at least twice a day. It was during these baths that the kittens would be held and handled by humans for the first time in their lives. And they loved it. They were so well behaved each time they were bathed. After each bath, they would be wrapped in a warm towel and placed in a box. As each one was added to the box, with their siblings waiting, they would be so relaxed that they would all fall asleep. This was also the time that the humans at Deer Lodge tried to bridge that gap between a feral cat and a normal domestic house cat. These feral cats were still very hesitant to fully engage with humans. They would hide in any nook and cranny that the room provided. Using some string was the one element that would coax them out of hiding, lower their defenses, and let them finally engage in some kitten playtime with the humans at Deer Lodge. Once they got used to this interaction, the floodgates opened, and not only would they enjoy playing games with the humans, but they now began to seek affection and comfort that was missing after the loss of their mother. This was now the time they began to lay on laps and wanted to be petted and stroked. It was also time to introduce them to Victor and Timmy, the two other feral cat kittens, who were brought into Deer Lodge in 2021 and 2022. Even though these were feral kittens, and the two older family members, Victor and Timmy, all came from different mothers, they more than likely all had the same father, Clark, or Darcy, making them all brothers. For their introduction to each other, the kittens were moved into an enclosed porch, where they could explore new surroundings, before meeting their older family members for the first time. As with most activities to this point, the two ginger kittens, Quincy and Leo, would be the most curious. Over the next few weeks, the kittens would spend time on the enclosed porch, bonding with their older brothers, and cementing a deep connection between all 6 cats. These 4 kittens became a big part of the lives of the humans at Deer Lodge during this time. However, it was apparent that the addition of these new cats would be hard, not only for the humans who take care of them, but also for the other adult cats that live on the inside at Deer Lodge. At the time of these 4 kittens coming inside, there were already 4 rescued adult cats living on the inside at Deer Lodge. Victor, a 3-year-old male, and Timmy, a 2-year-old male, were both rescued and brought inside from the feral cat colony. Plus another rescued male cat, adopted from a shelter, 9-year-old Toby. The only female cat, 10-year-old Molly, another rescued cat, has been a member of this family on the inside since she was 3 months old. She was found in a street gutter with wounds on her back from an animal attack. During these first few weeks, the different characteristics of each of the 4 new kittens became apparent. Quincy is the genius of the 4, far more advanced at this point with his skills, and he learned everything at lightning speed, and with a sunny disposition. Leo participated in activities alongside his brother Quincy. Leo is quiet and sweet. He always wants to do the right thing, and looks deeply in the eyes of the humans who care for him. Salem, like Jackson, stayed in the back at first. Once he became more familiar with his surroundings, he would push himself into the action and contact with humans, creating his nickname, Bootsie. He is very athletic and always in motion. As time went on, he became a real mama's boy, and wanted to cuddle with his human mother. At first, it was thought that all 4 kittens were males. Eventually it was uncovered that in actuality, Jackson was the sole female of the 4 siblings. Jackson is sweet, gentle, and always watching. She adores her brothers, but mostly keeps in the back, being the runt of the litter. The addition of these 4 new kittens would bring the total of the insiders to 8 cats. It was feared that this amount of cats on the inside would become a financial and time strain that wouldn't be good for the humans or the cats themselves. So, with a heavy heart, it was decided to try and attempt to find new homes for these kittens, with the help from a local cat adoption organization. And after a few weeks, 2 different adoption parent groups came to visit the kittens. Each spent a couple of hours with all 4 kittens. The first adoptees decided in the end to adopt the smallest kitten of the 4, Jackson. The next kitten to be chosen was one of the ginger cats, Quincy. Additional weeks passed without any further interest in either Leo or Salem. With their two siblings now gone, Leo and Salem's connection with each other grew into an inseparable bond. This bond became even greater with their older brothers, Victor and Timmy, creating a relationship over time that would only grow. Victor and Timmy were not only their big brothers, but their father figures as well. And as the weeks passed, it became clear to the humans at Deer Lodge that breaking up these wonderful bonds would be heartbreaking. So by October, it was decided that Leo and Salem would remain as members of the Insiders and be part of the permanent family of cats inside Deer Lodge. This would now make a total of 6 cats living on the inside, and 4 of these cats would be black cats. In many Western cultures, black cats are considered symbols of bad luck. However, in countries like Japan and Scotland, black cats are seen as symbols of good fortune. The black fur of these cats is due to a condition called melanism, which is an excess of dark pigmentation. Their dark fur can help with camouflage, especially at night, which may have been beneficial for hunting and survival in the wild. Some studies also suggest that the genetic mutation causing black fur might be linked to enhanced immune system function, giving black cats some resilience to certain diseases. Unfortunately, black cats are often overlooked in shelters due to lingering superstitions, or because they don't photograph as well as lighter-colored cats. As a result, they tend to stay in shelters longer than their counterparts. Black cats are truly unique and, despite the myths, have a lot of charm and personality, with them being some of the most talkative cats one could have. And there is no shortage of talking coming from all for black cats at Deer Lodge. While the feral kittens were becoming domesticated, their remaining family on the outside went about their business as usual. Ellen, Clark, Caramel, and Mocha remained a tight-knit family. For the most part they stayed together, with Clark protecting the 3 female feral cats. They usually come to the shelter and feeding area provided by Deer Lodge each morning after the food bowl has been filled. They eat as a family. Fresh water is always provided throughout the day all year long, as well as dry and wet food that they have access to all day or until it runs out. The shelter area has provided great relief for these feral cats since the winter of 2021. Each year since then, this area has been improved and added to. Prior to the winter of 2024 to 2025, new heated enclosures inside the shelter were added. These new shelters could hold 2 cats, and were not only insulated, but also had a heated mat on the floor. Insulation on the walls and ceiling, along with a chicken coop heat lamp, used as a light and heat source inside the shelter area, kept the temperature well above freezing on cold winter days or nights. In fact, the temperature inside the new enclosures was so warm that the cats took turns inside and out. Occasionally, the feral cats would have uninvited visitors. Either a raccoon or a possum would appear looking for food during harsh winter months when a supply of food was harder to come by. They would just let these unwanted guests feast on their own leftover cat food, if any still remained. The other feral male cat, Mr. Darcy, does not live with Clark and his family in the colony. He maintains his distance and appears at the feeding area at alternate times. Darcy does not sleep in the shelter, but uses neighboring structures for his winter hideout. There is, however, a new addition to the shelter area. In October of 2024, a stray cat arrived at the shelter and feeding area. This was an out-of-place, gray, adult, female abandoned house cat. She was given the name Bootsie. Bootsie moved right into the shelter and commandeered her own living space. This was an older insulated but unheated cat enclosure. It is situated on the other side of a wall, just behind the 2 enclosures that Clark and Ellen and their family use. As the temperatures dropped, a heated pad was added to Bootsie's shelter. She would just remain in her bed for most of the day, keeping warm, eating some food that was provided, and not venturing outdoors. Unlike the members of the feral cat colony here at Deer Lodge, Bootsie was more used to humans and would approach and want to be petted. This is why it was assumed that she was an abandoned or lost house cat that once belonged to other humans and must have lived indoors. Bootsie's presence was known by the feral cats, but they would all just avoid one another. Once 2025 began, and the cold winter months came to an end, Bootsie began to leave the enclosure for hours or even days on end before returning. It was also during this time that the humans at Deer Lodge attempted, on multiple occasions, to capture Bootsie. Working with the local humane society, Bootsie was given the opportunity of being placed in their adoption and veterinary health program. However, each attempt to capture Bootsie failed. She wanted nothing to do with it. And so, this avenue was closed and Bootsie would become a regular member of the colony, although still living on her own terms, away from the other members. So now well into 2025, the colony was back up to 6 members. This gave the cat population at Deer Lodge a total of 12 members, including both the insiders and the outsiders. Food and medical care for all 12 cats is a big undertaking. For the outsiders, along with their full meals and water, they also receive yearly care for fleas and ticks, worms, and immune health supplements to keep them healthy throughout the year. But still, unexpected things happen, and during 2025, members of both the insiders and outsiders suffered from a variety of physical mishaps. Both Clark and Bootsie injured one of their legs. Darcy struggled with various wounds he suffered in altercations with Clark. Darcy's wounds would occur throughout the year, as he and Clark would tangle over turf, shelter, and food in the colony. It took a few weeks and additional supplements added to their food to heal and be back to normal. On the inside, Toby suffered from a skin condition that would result in the loss of some of his fur. He would be under veterinary care for a few weeks for him to finally recover. And Timmy got his tail stuck in a door and nearly lost the tip of his tail. He too recovered after some veterinary help and time to heal. As the summer of 2025 arrived, it would be the 1-year anniversary of the 4 kittens being brought into Deer Lodge. For Leo and Salem, who remained at Deer Lodge, they have grown into wonderful young male cats. Their bonds between each other, Victor and Timmy, and the humans have only grown. They are all loved and cherished. As for the 2 adopted kittens, Quincy and Jackson, they too are flourishing in their new families. They are both loved and cherished by their human parents and other animal companions. We thank everyone who participated in the adoptions of these wonderful and loving animals. And as 2025 comes towards a close, the feral cat colony at Deer Lodge will continue on. The lives of Darcy, Clark, Ellen, Caramel, Mocha, Bootsie, and their stories will continue at Deer Lodge.
In the colony love's alive, feral cats in the wild we strive. Through the harshness of nature we stand tall and free. Here at Deer Lodge it's a family scene. With every heartbeat a story unfolds. In this life of survival our hearts are so bold. So here's to Ellen and Clark and the life that we've shared. In the colony at Deer Lodge where love shows we care. Through every tough winter and warm summer's day, these feral cats teach us that love will find a way. In the shadows of the pines where the wild wind calls lives a feral cat colony where summer sun falls. Ellen, the mama with her fur so warm, Clark's by her side keeping the family from harm. 3 litters she's raised, those 9 tiny souls, little paws in the dirt under the stars they roll. In the colony love's alive, feral cats in the wild we strive. Through the harshness of nature we stand tall and free. Here at Deer Lodge it's a family scene. With every heartbeat a story unfolds. In this life of survival our hearts are so bold. playful in the sun, while Ruby Sue's 4 are just starting to run. But oh, how we mourned when Ruby Sue passed, left her kittens crying, memories fading fast. The scent of wildflowers mixed with summer's sweet heat, we remember those moments as little paws meet. In the colony of love's alive, feral cats in the wild we strive. Through the harshness of nature we stand tall and free. Here at Deer Lodge it's a family you see. With every heartbeat a story unfolds. In this life of survival our hearts are so bold. In the melon mocha, surviving the chill. Through frostbitten nights they've got iron will. Predators lurking in the dark of the night, but we stand by our cats, keeping up the fight. 6 of the kittens found a home warm and bright, grateful for the families who cherish their life. In the colony love's alive, feral cats in the wild we strive. Through the harshness of nature we stand tall and free. Here at Deer Lodge it's a family you see. With every heartbeat a story unfolds. In this life of survival our hearts are so bold. Summers of laughter and winters so cold, we share in the journey, together we mold. Every scratch, every purr, an echo of grace. In this feral cat colony we found our place. In the colony love's alive, feral cats in the wild we strive. Through the harshness of nature we stand tall and free. Here at Deer Lodge it's a family you see. With every heartbeat a story unfolds. In this life of survival our hearts are so bold. So here's to Ellen and Clark and the life that we've shared. In the colony at Deer Lodge where love shows we cared. Through every tough winter and warm summer's day, these feral cats teach us that love will find a way.